Welcome, one and all, to the Wisdom of Womanhood podcast with myself, Showy Moon, and beautiful Pippa.
Hey guys, what
Hey,
kind of
hey.
uh what kind of things have been doing on video today? Like last week we did some great I just love it. It's so funny. I just love
Just
that we
that
don't
like
care.
40-second clip of inappropriate sexual things on
Oh,
camera.
I just love that we don't care. It's like gonna laugh
It's not
now.
even don't care. That's just who I am. Like it'd be inauthentic if you made
Yeah.
a comment like that and I didn't refer to fingering.
Yeah, Chris said to me yesterday, he said he says something which talks about wet or soaking or something. I think I was editing a video about hay soaking or something. He was waiting for me to make it sexual. He was like, "You know, we make everything sexual." And I was like, "Oh yeah, sorry. Oh yeah, I mean soaking like my pussy." And he was just dead funny. Just the funny like comments that you would say from he's like waits for them. It's funny, it
Yeah.
makes me laugh. I love it.
Yeah, I love it. When I'm sitting in a room and there's been a comment and there isn't another person in the room that is thinking of a sex setting, because you can tell the people that are as well. When you're sitting there and you look around the table and you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
they're on the same page as
Oh, I love
me.
it so much.
Oh, brilliant. Hey, okay, so this conversation is fucking important to start off with. Really important going into this. We are speaking into the history of diet culture and the impact that this obsession with a particular expression of the female form and also men, but within this, we're going to speak particularly about women, how damaging the ripples have been from that for the last 100 years and what it looks like now. It's going to be a pretty heavy topic because I know that honestly, I don't know if any of us have ever escaped it. I
Yeah.
don't know if any of us as women have managed to get through being a teenage girl, get through being a young adult woman, get through being an adult, a mum, an aging woman in this world and have not been impacted in some way by this insane pressure to look a certain way, to be a certain way, to be in a particular physical body. And so we're going to dive in. And, I think we start off by saying, look, we're not going to be coming from the medical angle of diet and of some of the topics that we're going to go into. What we feel is really important is to honor this as part of our journey as women.
Yeah.
Part of our journey as women has been deep into navigating through this individually and as a collective of women, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely probably going to be some triggers for me in this topic,
Yeah, me
for
too.
how I saw my body growing up, and I got stuck in a cycle of start a diet Monday, start the diet Monday, start this diet, and it just became this like I end up just make it well actually realizing that I was just stuck in a cycle of this like not how would I word it? I'm watching my language as always because Shaway's teaching me that. I'm trying to get into like diet became a word that just triggered me, and I changed
Mhm.
it to lifestyle. Like I was changing my lifestyle, not and trying to choose things that were choose foods and drinks that were nourishing me, but then also not. I used to get stuck in the, oh, I used to give myself such a hard time for like eating sugar, wanting a chocolate bar, wanting some wine. I used to just give myself that, I used to guilt myself so much for having those things. And the
Same
last few,
cycle.
yeah, the last few years have just been like, hey, like the moderation of, I'm not going to sit there and eat McDonald's every single day, but it's
Mhm.
just that moderation of like, hey, I've got respect for my body and what I want to put into my
Mhm.
body and things. And it just kind of went over from that, how I used to look, because I used to like really give myself a hard time with how I looked when I was younger. Compared to now where I absolutely just love myself. But there are days where I wake up and I'm self-critical, we're not perfect. I do wake up some days and I'm like, oh, my body's changing right now. I'm getting a little belly. and
Mhm.
my boobs are changing, and I've got to just ride with those beautiful transformations becoming a mother. So I think that's that, like, it's going to be a really beautiful, it's going to be a beautiful topic today, a powerful, deep topic. But yeah, for me, just there will be some triggers for me, which I will work through when they do arise.
Yeah. Okay, so I'd love to start this by asking, because you've just touched on some points already. When is your earliest memory of consciously thinking, I need to restrict or change my diet in order to look a certain way? Do you have early memories of that? What would
Oh,
be the
I'm gonna
earliest memories
cry.
of that? Oh, darling.
Yeah, from being like 4 or 5, because I had bowel issues growing up, so I had to eat a lot of fiber. I used to, whenever I see them, like that, I just remember I used to have to take fiber gels all the time, like these packets of like orange fiber. I remember they were disgusting because when you drank them, they still had like the bits in them, and I used to have to drink
Mm.
them. And I remember like just being told by a medical practitioner, well, my mum and dad more so, because I was too young at the time, that I had to eat certain things and a lot of fiber in my diet, because of my bowel issues. And that became part of my trauma in diet culture when I got older, because I got, at a very early age, I got into a cycle of reward. So just to briefly touch on it, if I haven't spoken about it before, when I was younger, I would be on a kind of reward cycle to help me go to the toilet. So I remember on the back of the kitchen wall, we had this poop chart. And it makes, when I'm thinking about it, it does make me smile, because it was a really good way to help me, to rewire my brain. So whenever I went to the toilet for number two, I would get a gold star. Woo! So that was always really amazing for me as a kid, because that was like, this was the doctor's kind of recommendations of how they wanted it to be done with my mum and dad. And if I think I got like 3 or 4 stars in that week, I got to go pick like a toy or something nice at the
Cool.
weekend, which ah,
External motivation and external reward.
yes. So whenever I had a really
Yeah.
good week, or when I got older, if I had a really good week, or I finished an assignment, I would be like, right, let's go get pissed, let's go get drunk, let's celebrate, let's go eat loads of chocolate, let's have desserts. I became
Ooh.
this reward cycle of, so I
Mhm.
had to break that. I had to really break it. And it was really hard, but my mum and dad did a lot for me. They must have really struggled because it was really hard. I remember speaking to my mum about it when they were here last. I gave her a big hug and said it must have been so hard because you'd never been through that before with a daughter. And so my early memories of diet culture were like being told at such an early age, she can't eat this, she got to eat this. And maybe I should talk more about that with my mum, like what kind of foods, because I remember eating my favorite foods like turkey dinosaurs and chicken nuggets and beans and smiley faces and potato waffles. I used to love all those kind of foods, but I was trying to think of like my mum, what would she have given me when I was on like that wouldn't, that would help me go to the toilet. So for me, yeah, very young age for me.
Yeah, that's extremely young. And you know what's even more, when we look at it from a collective level, what is even scarier than being that age and going through a medical thing where there's an attachment is that there are 5-year-olds now that think that they need to go on diets and that are displaying signs of eating disorders. There's actually a great podcast episode that Johnson and I did with Marcy, who's from Canada. And we spoke about body image, and yeah, she was coming across 5-year-olds. I have come across a 9-year-old in my TP Skills for Life program who was showing signs of an eating disorder, which baffles people. And it's really important for us to notice and recognize from so early on the images that, say, particularly our generation, we're in our 30s, we were exposed to from such a young age. We were the first generation that grew up with constant exposure to magazines,
Yeah.
to advertisements, to all those things, which was a constant attack on this is how you should look. This is how you should look. This is what you should eat. This is, what you should do in order to be like this, look like this, in order to be desirable.
Yeah.
Even if you look at this is within the same context, but even I've had a couple of conversations with men in my life around pornography recently, because it's one of the sessions that I do in my new job, working with sexual harm awareness and support. And, they all said pornography for them was like their dad's mag from the 80s, and women's bodies were very natural, and it was, there was body hair, and all of these things. You look at now, what is in a lot of the mainstream pornography, even in women's bodies, have changed drastically in a short space of time.
Yeah.
Within those areas too, and then everything, all the things we're seeing on TV. And so, yeah, it's an interesting age to be in, a time for us to experience when our whole lives we have been told that there is an idea of the image of our body that we need to attain, essentially in order to be loved, accepted, and worthy.
Yeah.
And what's fucked up about that is that also keeps changing. You look at the last 30 years, and it is drastically, longer. We can go back to like Marilyn Monroe, and what was a beautiful woman. It went from being very curvaceous, and childbearing hips, and beautiful kind of big breasts and everything like that. And then in a very short space of time, you think about the early 90s, and now it was thick, thin, no boobs, no butt, tall, thin runway model. And then how it's fluctuated, now it's like the Kardashian butt, people are getting surgeries on their butts now, which is something that has never existed before in history.
I know.
So it's this constant fluctuation of the body, and you think of it, it's impossible to even keep up with the trend of women's bodies as it changes. And why? Because when it continues to change, we continue to try and achieve it and attain it. And what does that look like? That looks like us paying the money, first of all, to get the things on the diet, to go to the gyms, to get the facial creams, to get all the things. So that's great for the consumerism industry and the capitalist industry. And on top of that, we stay disempowered as women. Because if we feel shitty in our bodies, and we don't feel beautiful, and we don't feel sexy and all of those things, once again, we come back to this. The disempowered woman is easier to control. The disempowered woman who doesn't feel safe in her body, she's very easy to manipulate. And it's, when we take that wide-eye perspective and notice the subtleties of how that plays out, it's very subtle, a lot of it. It's like I love the trends that are coming up on social media now, where really fantastic positive influencers are showing in the videos the subtle changes with the filters and the body contorting technology that's available now. And they're actually showing us, what can so easily happen in terms of not only photo manipulation, but video manipulation. Because that's another thing that's only been very recent is AI and video manipulation when it comes to the attack on the women's bodies. One thing that has just come up in my training around sexual harm and sexual violence awareness, and that is very new, is being able, and it's going through the courts and it's trying to come into law at the moment, is putting people's faces onto AI generated bodies of women.
That's happened to me twice in the last month.
Yeah. It's really, really common.
And then they blackmail
and then you
for
look down the
money.
roads of sextortion. Sextortion. So sextortion is like massively on the rise, particularly with our young people. There's been like an influx of like 70% rise of sextortion in the last like year or something. And you look at the bodies, these artificial bodies, that are even being used. So it's fucking fascinating. It's really fascinating. And I don't think it's spoken about enough. I don't think these conversations are spoken about enough, because we've all kind of gone like, oh, we're just used to it. We're used to the attack on women's bodies, and really, yes. And I think we need to keep bringing it up. and celebrating the diversity in our bodies and the stories of our bodies, and this is the part that's pivotal, and ensuring that it's coming from a place of health, right? Because I know, and that comes into holistic health. I know a lot of clients that I've seen carry a lot of extra weight, and nearly every single one of them, it has been the byproduct of trauma. Often sexual trauma, because as a woman, one of the safest ways to protect you from a potential sexual predator is to become undesirable to a man. And it's something that I'm really helping to educate a lot of people on, because like that's why I say we want these conversations to come from holistic health. Like where I don't want us to look at, say, a woman who seems to be carrying extra weight on her body and not take into consideration the wholeness of that woman's story up until that very point. Like, yes, I'm a big advocate for, like eating healthy and exercise. Fuck yes, eating healthy and exercise, 100%. But let's also do all of the holistic work so that eating healthy and exercising is coming from a place of, because I want to fucking love myself more. I'll speak into a little bit about my story in this. So it was really interesting asking you, what your earliest age was, obviously, because that was influenced by the medical situations at the time as well. I probably was 12-ish, 11-ish, 12-ish. And those are my earliest memories of, in my eyes, like feeling fat. And it's crazy when you look back, because I was not an overweight child at all. But when you look at it, I had been exposed to a lot of trauma, but that was suppressed memories. And so when we look at like eating disorders from a psychological perspective, a lot of the time an eating disorder is coming from a needing to control something. And so I felt out of control in my life, at the same time as starting like self-harm, like cutting and suicidal ideation. I also then began like severely restricting food, running, vomiting while I was running, all of those kinds of tendencies, never to the point where it became like a major health risk, the behaviors that were starting to adapt at that time. And then it's come and gone, throughout the last 20 years. And it's showed its face in it's showed itself in really different ways. And this is why I think that these are the parts that some people don't realize. I would say maybe 9 years ago, 8 years ago, I started exercising a lot. Exercising a lot and restricting my food, but like I was being healthy. Underlying was that I didn't feel worthy, and that I was doing that because I felt like my body needed to look different. And I wanted to be lovable, and I wanted to be desirable, and all of those things. And so it was like the health as escapism, health and wellness as a way to actually punish myself. And honestly, it's still something I have to be aware of. I really have to be careful. I know this about myself when it comes to food, and making sure that reasons that I'm eliminating things from my diet really are about my health and not about trying to punish myself. I still have guilt things come up that I just have to be aware of in me. And I know that about me. And my relationship to my body, because I do react to quite a few foods, and I do have quite a restrictive diet for a number of reasons that are based on health. But I have to watch it. And it's like, it's so interesting speaking to women of a diversity of body shapes and sizes, because it's really triggering when someone like me that's in a healthy, kind of their perception of like a healthy body, and I'm, within the like good weight range, me saying like, oh, this is something that I have to be aware of, because I definitely still have some elements of body dysmorphia, and not drastically, but it's subtle, and I know that it's there, and it's something that I just have to be careful of. When I started doing my weight training a year and a half ago, I sat down with my PT and had a conversation with him about it. And I said we started looking at calorie counting and everything just for me to build up muscle and everything. And I said to him, I just have to be really careful about this because this can be a way for me to control and then develop a really unhealthy relationship with food in my body. And it was great. You know, we just sat down and chatted about it, and I was really honest. And
Yeah.
yeah, and it's, you know, so I think it's going, it can look in so many different ways, our relationship to our body and that concept of restriction and the dieting, you know, and everything. And so it's impacted all of us in so many ways. And really seeing that for what it is, I think is really important.
Yeah, I honor you for sharing that because you've given me the courage to share something that is very vulnerable for me to share. I've done a lot of journaling and healing around my bowel stuff because obviously it plays out a lot in my adult life, as a lot of things do. And I came to realize, and I told Chris this a while ago, just to be, I'm going to be wary of it. Like you mentioned, watch it because it's how I control. And basically, I came to the conclusion because when you have these profound aha moments, even though they come from a vulnerable state, it is who you are and it's okay. And when I kind of got to that stage, I was like, it kind of set myself free because I was just like, I can talk about this with my husband freely and not feel ashamed anymore. So I realized that. So I've been gluten free for 3 years, 3 years. And I'm not strictly gluten free because I don't want to have no tolerance to it. So I'll have a certain, I've kept certain things in my diet. I have like sourdough and things like that. And there's some foods that I just didn't want to cut out because they're my favorite foods, like dumplings. I'm like, nope, and I gotta have them. Anyways, as I got older, I was realizing like I was using food as my like definitely for when I'm sad or, triggered, like food's my source. And I think a lot of it was because I was suppressed as a young age for food. So like now it's like, oh, I need to eat all this food. This is like because I missed out on a lot of, good foods when I was like younger. What I realized is sometimes I'll punish myself and self-sabotage where I'll eat stuff I'm not meant to eat or I shouldn't eat. And it puts me in a state of tummy aches, off, diarrhea, my stomach's off. And I used to sit with myself and say, why am I putting myself through it? And I realized why, because when I was in a state of pain, when I was in a state of, my bowels were off and on for probably like 6 years of my childhood, I would have attention. I had
Yeah,
all the
yeah, yeah.
attention and I was, and this probably affects my sister to some degree. I don't know, but I was, that I was a sick child. So I was always at the doctor's and I was at the hospital. So I told this to Chris. I was like, sometimes when I'm not well, it's like, oh, I get all the attention. And I sat with it and I said, even though it comes from that place of that's not an aligned state, it's not a connected state, it's a trauma state. And I was like, being able to say it out loud on this podcast is like, I'm okay with it. Like now I can watch it, like you said, and there's still elements of it there. So like now now I know it's in my consciousness. I'm like, okay, Pip, what are you doing this for? Are you doing this for some attention because that you go into those cycles? Or am I just going to honor myself today and step away and go, hang on a minute, putting myself in that state where my tummy's off. My body's just a wreck and I don't want to feel like that. So you sharing your part of your story really inspired me to share that part of my story because there's more to it, obviously, but that to put those two things together, it just really helped me to understand myself on a deeper level, and that's all we can do, isn't it? Like just get to know ourselves on that deeper level.
Fuck yeah, that's so powerful. Thank you so much for being curious about yourself. You know, thank you for diving into looking at the reasons why you were doing things. It's so beautiful when we can navigate through life in that way, right? We can go, okay, I'm noticing this pattern or this behavior. And yes, there might still be an element of shame or guilt that sits in there. But if I can be curious about it,
Yeah.
often, not often, always, you will find that behavior or that pattern is coming from you trying to fulfill an unmet need.
Yeah.
Right. So it was that need for closeness and care and being seen and valued. And so of course it's like that beautiful little girl that was just going, here's a way for me to get that attention and love and care.
Yeah,
And
because
so now who do I want to be? You know, now do I want to to tend to her and love her so she still isn't trying to fight for that attention and care? Or do I want to allow that to define me? And now, those unmet needs will continue to rule my life. And that's so powerful.
Well, it is, and you always challenge me to go deeper in that. And when I did go deeper in that, it was watch my language here. It was the old pattern and wounding of feeling like a burden because I was the
Yeah.
sick child. I was the one that had to go to the doctor's appointment in the hospital, and I spent a lot of time in the children's hospital in the UK. And so feeling like this burden, as we get older, our wounding will constantly scan our surroundings to confirm that wounding when we're in that dysregulated state. So to find, to eat some food that I know will set my stomach off, because I know it as soon as I eat it, I'm like, my stomach's going to be off in a few hours. I wouldn't care at that point because I was in a wounded state and I would be like, this is going to make me feel like a burden. Da, 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 da. So to just be conscious about it now and be like, okay. And sometimes I do have an off tummy, like it happens, especially when I had E. coli a few weeks ago in my early pregnancy. That was a huge trigger for me all week because having off tummy, which wasn't my control, like I said, my control. I didn't choose, like I didn't go out and just eat the food because I wanted to. It was just obviously this happens. It's a struggle for me because anything to do with my bowels, and it brings up a lot of stuff for me, So I do sit in that energy and just think, okay, what's this bringing up for me? Where does it come from? And just relating it to certain areas. But diet culture for so many of us as women, I mean, like you just mentioned so much of it, Shao, like online. Like I was saying to Chris yesterday, it was we went did a nature walk, and I was saying like I don't watch normal TV anymore, so we don't have those adverts. And I say, no, I remember the adverts in the UK, like our main supermarkets and stuff would have like really like, big adverts on at Christmas and things. And then you'd be watching like, your TV show, and then there'd be like a 3-minute break, in between as we did as kids, and there'd be something around food or inadequacy, or like, are you feeling like this? And it just the marketing that they did, and the priming us at such a young age to not feel valued, to not feel worthy, to not feel lovable, to not, and it's there. And like you say, it's sad to see, like I even said to him yesterday, the power that celebrities have, like, powerful people have over all of us. Because we were driving home yesterday and we were talking about this. We were listening to a podcast together, and I said just how much influence celebrities have on everybody.
Yeah.
And I said, I just used the example of Taylor Swift because she just came to mind. If Taylor Swift came to New Zealand and just went out to the field and said, "Oh, this tree is a magical tree. It has da 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 da," whatever she said, no matter what she said, people would just believe her because she's got this power and influence. And you know, as a celebrity, I can't speak for celebrities because I'm not a celebrity and I'm not in their body. I'm not been through what they've been through. But if I had that power and influence, which I do to some degree in a sense of my inspiration and this podcast and talking to you every week, Shao, I'd want to do good with that influence. I'd want to be a light. And I think a lot of it is, like you said, like the Kardashians, these big bums, and I watch and I'm like, I try not to judge because we can really fall into that judgment. But these young girls who look up to these girls, they look up to them for so much, and they go, I want to look like her. I don't have big boobs. I don't have a big bum. I don't have big hips. I don't have nice hair, and I don't have big lips. And it makes me sad because I'm like, if you could just see yourself in the beauty and the love, like, but they're on their own journey, aren't they, to discover who they are. So it's kind of like, you know.
Yeah. And I feel as if there's one more piece I want to drop into this, and then it'd be really great if we could share some of the current things that we do to support ourselves and
Yeah.
not participating in
Yeah.
that culture, and for ourselves and other women in that. There's just one other piece that was definitely pivotal, and I feel like people will relate, that was in my journey and my relationship to my body and that trying to attain, and that was sex.
Yeah.
And sex definitely in the past for me had been a way to feel desirable in my body. to feel wanted, to feel sexy as a woman or a girl. I was young when I first was having sex, and really journeying over the last, probably 4 or 5 years of reclaiming sex and intimacy as a beautiful collaborative experience that is so much more than physical has been so fucking healing. And taking and removing away, the wounding that for so many years of my life was sitting within sex, coming from a lack of worth. The lack of worth was then bringing in the sex that would then give me this quick fix and this quick hit of like, I'm worthy, I'm sexy, I'm beautiful. And then it would go, and then I'd be constantly chasing that hit, and it's very similar to the nervous system as addiction. And it's not that I had a sex addiction, it's that I can recognize how sex was creating a way for me to feel beautiful in myself because I didn't feel beautiful in myself. And this is why now I'm such a big advocate for the healing that can happen within self-pleasure and intimacy, because there's so many other remnants that come into it within this topic, of our relationship to our bodies. And like, I remember when the first time that I was intimate with someone after I left the kid's dad, and I was fucking scared because the kid's dad had seen my body grow through 3 different pregnancies. He had seen my body change. He had, in his eyes, I'd birthed as humans, as children, and he'd seen my boobs go through like 7 different sizes, and so there was almost this like beautiful thing in that, he thinks I'm beautiful because, I made his babies. And then going into the world as, these men, they haven't seen the journey of my body, and it's changed a lot. My body does not look the same as it did pre-babies. And fuck, the insecurities that came up around that was so fucking intense. And really like lasted quite a long time. And I still do have some insecurities around my body, because there are some things that still carry some pretty heavy trauma. I have heavy, I have navigated through some trauma around my breasts because, first of all, they've changed like 19 different sizes, having 3 babies. But I had massive breastfeeding issues with all 3 of my babies, particularly my boys. That led to like hospitalization and lots of feelings of unworthiness as a mother, because we couldn't breastfeed together, my babies and I, due to a number of reasons, none of which was that there was anything wrong with me, and none of which was that I was deficient. However, I entangled it into that. And so it's so parallel, the journey of accepting our fullness in ourselves and accepting our bodies, because now, I love how fucking connected I am to my pleasure and my body and my sexuality. And that doesn't mean, there's a really great conversation in this piece around body positivity and body neutrality. Body positivity can be toxic as fuck, because body positivity can be, you have to always feel good about your body all of the time. And that is a false way of living. That's like feeling great about yourself all of the time. Like,
well, that's like
bypassing
spiritual positivity, isn't it? Like just be grateful every day. Just be grateful every day. It's just
that's not it. Your body neutrality is, I can honor my body and the beautiful things that it does, and still sometimes, not feel super great about things, but I can just honor and accept and witness and love it for the journey that it's been on with me. And also I know for me, in the element of like spiritual bypassing, I almost like spent so much time outside of my body and my spiritual growth, actually journeying back into the felt sensation and accepting this as the whole vessel for this lifetime and this experience, is really important to do. So there's kind of like that piece I feel as if people will resonate with that part of my story. Okay, so like what do you do now? What do you consciously do now to look after yourself and your relationship to your own body, to not participate in the culture of the attack on the woman body within that kind of diet culture industry and beauty industry. And, how do you feel like you contribute to the wellness of that for the collective as women as well?
First off, the sex stuff you mentioned, I resonate with because I used it to not feel like a burden. That was kind of how I was seen and validated. And so I resonate with that part for sure.
Mm.
Right now, I'm going through a massive change, and my food has changed because I can't really stomach a lot of food being pregnant. So I'll speak for prior to pregnancy and I'll speak to now. So prior to pregnancy, my relationship with food is definitely, we have an open relationship, let's say that. So I love food. I am such a foodie. I love going out for dinners. I love meeting friends for lunch and breakfast, and it makes me happy. It gives me a lot of joy. But I don't, I'm gonna watch how I say now. I don't relate, and I can't get into a routine of calorie counting and things like that. Like that's very restrictive to me, and I restrictive is a trigger for me because of the restrictive stuff as a kid. So I speak for me. So prior to pregnancy, I want to eat veg every day where I can. I had a smoothie every day. I had collagen every day. I stuck to some really good routines, and being gluten-free
Mm.
really changed
Mhm.
inflammation in my body and things like that. So
Mhm.
I had some gene testing done and things like that. And I did I hired a nutritionist and just did some, you know, I didn't do a blood test, but I just did some like hair testing and things like that. So I got to know my body and what my body and what things would lead to more inflammation for me, which can then lead to like dementia and things like that. So for me, I just got more knowledgeable about food and knowledgeable about, hey, what's that going to do to my body? And everyone's different. For example, I can metabolize alcohol very well. Chris can't. So he will feel really hungover in the morning if he's had a couple of beers or, a couple of gins or whatever he's drinking, which isn't very often anyway. So it definitely impacts his body. I I removed myself from, so there's two elements to this. If I got asked out to dinner, like with friends, I was a hell yes. Because I was like, I'd be checking out the menu. I'd be like, oh, and my mouth would be watering because I just love food so much. But when it came to being at home, especially with the kids here as well, the fridge and the pantry changes from week to week in our house because of the kids being here. So having the temptation when the kids are here with the biscuits and things like that. So just being mindful of and being present for me, being very present, because when I'm in trigger or I'm sad or I'm whatever, the lower emotions, food is my therapist. Food is what
Yeah.
helps me.
Mhm.
So I have to be mindful of that. Now, pregnancy, I had E. coli at the beginning of pregnancy, which put me off quite a few foods. And when I was following a couple of mum people on Instagram, and a lot of them are very like big advocates for what to really eat and nourish your baby and all this stuff. And it became very triggering for me because I was like, I can't stomach that today. Like they were telling you
Yeah.
eat salad every day and veg. I'm not stupid. Like I know that everything feeding is to potentially go into my baby.
Mhm.
Hence why I'm not drinking alcohol. I don't smoke, things like that. Anyway, with food, it's just been very much, and I feel for Chris because he's like, hey, what would you like for dinner tomorrow? And I said, I can't really say now because I just don't know what I feel
Yeah.
like. So it's been really challenging for me because there's been elements of that mum guilt coming in, which I've never really felt before, where I'm like, okay, is this a feeling that
Mm.
collectively we feel? Because I'm like, okay, I can't eat all this vegetables and I can't eat all of these fruit. So what I'm trying to do now is manage, okay, well, can I make a smoothie? Even though I couldn't like, physically, some things I just don't want to eat physically. Can I make a smoothie? Or, at the moment I'm really craving, I won't say craving. I'm just like really enjoying broccoli with like nuts on and then some balsamic glaze. Like I'm loving the
Mm.
sour taste and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So every day I'm saying to myself, what do I need today? What do I feel like I can eat today without putting myself into a state of forcing myself to eat things like because I just would feel sick. I just couldn't eat certain things. So there's a lot of social media pressure to be a good mum. You need to da 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 da, and to be a good just. And I just was like, I unfollow.
Welcome, my
Yeah,
love.
I unfollow it. I'm just like, and I'm really
Well
proud
done.
of that part of me because there's an element of me that wants to relish in that and just be like victim, just follow it all, Pip, and just feel it. And I'm like, it doesn't comfortable for me. I don't want to feel that comfortable. I don't want to follow that. That's not for me right now because I know it's going to lead to uncomfortable emotions, and I'm not avoiding the uncomfortable emotions. I am just conscious enough and I understand myself on a deeper level to go, is that healthy for me in this now moment? No, it's not. So I'm not going to do it. And that's the same with food is like, hey, some days I'll want some Whittaker's chocolate because it fucking tastes amazing. But then like, I'm not drinking alcohol. Like I'm not, it's just there are days where I just can't, I can't eat certain foods. So for any pregnant women listening, I would definitely say unfollow those social media presences that are very like, oh, well, to be a good mom and to do this and because like I was saying to Mary yesterday, there's just so much information out there. Like so yesterday, I just was like, I just can't. There's just do this meditation, do this breath work, go to saunas, go to the beach, like, and I'm like, and then there's like this crib's better, this pram set's better, these breast pumps, and I'm just like, I just go, no, I'm taking a break from it all. Like and you
Well
gotta,
done.
yeah, and I just go, okay, what's best for me and my baby?
Mm-hmm.
What's best for me and Chris? What's best for our
Mm-hmm.
household? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just honoring that. That's the best word I can say is honoring where I'm at on a daily basis. Because my best advice my midwife gave me is the transformation through a pregnancy is different for every woman, as is our life journey. Our life journey from birth to death is different for every single person on the planet. So, how can we take that into our own transformations like motherhood? And she said, wake up every day and take it day by day. And that's what I'm doing because I can't plan a week in advance. Like when I can't plan, normally I've got my week planned. The kids' meals are all planned out. I go shopping. I've said to Chris, I might have to just go to New World every other day, and Chris has been going as well because I can't plan that far in advance. So it for each person it's different, and I think that's the whole point that it's different for everybody, and I'm doing what I can do to help me through my transformation. So unfollow people and just come away from it when you need to and it gets too much. Because that's what's helped me through navigating this journey.
Beautiful. And it sounds as if you're developing an even deeper relationship to listening to your body as well.
Yeah. And baby.
Actually,
Mm.
yeah, listening to what it is and being creative about the ways that we can still make sure that we're receiving the nutrients and the vitamins that we need in order to, be at optimal physical, mental, emotional health. However, it's that creativity around it because, yeah, sometimes it cannot be the way that is sometimes being perceived it has to be. So
Yeah.
it's really beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, I'm making so many
Uh,
soups. Soups are just love soups at the moment.
yes.
How about you? Like
Um,
how has it been for you? Like do you have a similar kind of thing where like you were different in being pregnant as well with food?
oh yeah. I mean, going back to the pregnancies is really interesting because it was so long ago, really. I mean, my first one was 13 years ago.
Yeah.
And I fucking didn't know shit about shit. I didn't know fucking anything. I didn't know anything about health. I think I probably knew more than most 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I think okay, there's an interesting part to my relationship to food and how that's kind of navigated through my pregnancies and then motherhood and now is that my daughter has severe food allergies. She's severely allergic to peanuts, cashews, pistachios. She used to be very allergic to egg and dairy products as well. And my two sons did have dairy allergies when they were born as well. And so we as a family have navigated through the different ways of needing to, for life or death reasons when it comes to my daughter. She has an EpiPen. So needing to be really, really super and hyper aware of what is in foods. And the beauty of that journey for us as a family was that it really was the catalyst for me to learn more about what was in my food and to make healthier choices. And then my daughter had severe chronic eczema. So we were seeing, all the top specialists in the country for allergies and eczema when she was about 3 years old. And total side note, I'm not going to go on a tangent, but we were absolutely fucking failed by the mainstream medical system. Like it was a catastrophe. It was so fucking bad. And I dived deep into my understanding of gut health and nutrition and did a lot of my own research. And so about 10 years ago, kind of set us on a new trajectory in terms of health. And so it's been this interesting balance of like health and then also not holding so tightly onto the restrictions. Like my kids do sometimes when they're with me still have like we're predominantly vegan and gluten-free, very low refined sugar in my home, predominantly. However, I used to hold really fucking tightly to that, and I used to go like this because I had that mother trauma of I need to keep my babies alive. When you see your 8-month-old baby go through an allergic reaction and you think they're fucking dying, which is what happened, it changes the way that you respond to things. And so I've really had to work with that. And I feel like we're at a good place with it now. But I've got healthier. And so now I've had to continue to listen to my body, very similar to you, like in terms of the things that create inflammation and that don't, and do just more work around my gut health, and not be so attached to the things going into my body and then what it looks like as the outward expression of my body. I love how you said you unfollow people. That's something that has been really good for me. I love boudoir photography. I've done multiple, if you don't know what that is, it's like lingerie photography, really beautiful, classy. I've done quite a few shoots myself, been blessed to have some amazing photographers to work with. And one thing that I noticed was that, because I follow a lot of photography pages, I was becoming really fucking triggered by particular body shapes, and one particularly like fake breasts. And for me personally, I really, really, really struggled with it because first of all, like my journey with my body, and also not that I'm judging anyone for getting breast implants. However, seeing those photos of the woman and knowing the things that have probably infiltrated relationship to women in their bodies, and then feeling really insecure in myself in that. So I'm still sitting with like, what I often do is like I keep some up so that I still can sit with the trigger and allow it to be there and like not judge the woman, but let myself feel it, but not so much that I'm sitting there just feeling fucking shitty about myself. Like there's that balance of leaning into your shadow and your shit and then being like, am I just fucking torturing myself?
Yeah.
And like I'm saying, I have no like celebrities that I follow on any social media things. Pink is probably the only one that I do. Because, and I could be totally fucking wrong, but my perception of her is that she advocates a lot for women, really speaks the truth, and I really like that.
Yeah.
So but I don't, and I used to. Fuck man, I remember when I was in my deepest state of depression with my middle son at home, sick baby, every fucking single day, sick, for months and months and months, deeply depressed. So you know what I did? As I sat, we were house sitting at the time, this was my fucking life. This is how depressing it was. I sat with my baby who I could never put down and I constantly had to move with. So I had a rocking chair and I would sit there in the rocking chair with him to try and get him to not cry. I could never put him down, not through all of the day, like never. Not even for a second. I put him down for a second, he'd start screaming. He had an undiagnosed tongue and lip tie, and other issues happening, and silent reflux, all this stuff. And I would sit in this rocking chair and I would swing in it and I would watch the Kardashians, and I would watch the news. And that would be my whole fucking life. And can you imagine how much worse I was feeling about myself and
Yeah.
my completely post-baby body, deep in depression, deep in grief. And I would sit, and at nighttime, I would get up and I would hold him and I'd be feeding him and try and put him back to sleep. And I'd look at the fucking news and look at all these celebrities and all these things. And I was putting myself into this deeper, deeper, deeper hole. And we don't realize how much that stuff infiltrates our fucking psyche,
I
right?
know. Yeah.
Our relationship to ourself, our worth, our body, us as women, how we see other women. And so yeah, so those are some of the things I'm really aware of everything that I take in. And now I think something I continue to work on, but I just, if I notice judgments coming up in myself, I used to, first of all, I would get lost in them. And
Yeah.
then I learned to realize that they were there, but I ignored them. And now I realize they're there and I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
okay, so a little bit of judgment towards my body today. And then I just make peace with it more than I used to. I having a daughter, one thing that I am really big on is like none of my children have ever heard me speaking negatively about my body,
Yeah.
ever, and
Yeah.
they never will, because it is not fair that I infiltrate that upon them. Even if I have those thoughts, I'm always celebrating us and I celebrate them and I call them on their language towards each
Yeah.
other when it comes to their bodies as well. Like I'm really fucking big on that. I'm like, no, we do not comment on other people's bodies unless we're saying something that is like, hey, something to do with health or injuries or whatever. So there are some things that like are pretty prevalent in terms of my role within diluting that
Yeah.
paradigm that currently exists. I'm raising a daughter who looks about 4 years older than she is
Yeah.
as a 12-year-old, which is a really interesting journey raising her in this life and in this time. And yeah, and things like, makeup and stuff like that. I often don't wear any makeup now. I used to wear so much more makeup.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do, but it's by choice, and coloring my hair and stuff. I'm really careful on the why. Like, why am I doing this? Am I doing this to try and seek seek appreciation and
Yeah.
acknowledgement and validation? Or am I doing this because like it's fun and I like it and I enjoy it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's that, if we can tap into the why we're making choices based on our physical expression and what that is, and if it's based on love as opposed to fear, and
Yeah.
abundance as opposed to lack, well, that can be our guiding point, right?
Yeah. I just wanted to touch on really quick before we finish is for me, when it came to health, I watched my mum jump in and out of it's like Slimming World in the UK. I don't know if it's worldwide and like
Oh,
Weight Watchers and stuff, and like they dropped in
oh,
and out of that, which I've joined it once or twice when I was younger, and I just thought, well, they're just kind of telling you what to eat and what not to eat. And they have recipes and things. It's like, okay, and people lose weight, it becomes this like big reward. Oh, she lost 2 pounds. She gets these big like certificates and things. But like, it got me thinking about that. Maybe we can do like a part two to this because
mhm.
we're actually going to start doing interviews next week, which is really exciting. So maybe we can get someone on who's really like, in this field of diet culture as well.
Mm.
But I noticed in myself, I don't do it as much now, is all the products that are available to us. I would get so overwhelmed and anxious. Oh, am I buying the right collagen? Am I buying the right probiotic? Am I buying the right vitamins? Am I buying the right prenatal? And I would send myself insane. I'd sit researching it for like hours and go pros and cons,
Oh
the reviews.
no.
And this was like a while ago. When it came to prenatal, I just went more on the best kind of ones that
Mm.
a lot of people had seen, which were Thorne. I use Thorne products, but they could be quite expensive, so I don't always go with them for different things. But there's so much choice. Like I said, that information overload. There's so many products out there, and you get so wrapped up in like, and then there's so many diet things out there, and these new like skincare companies that are arising, and like this. I'm just like, I use Ordinary because they're cheap and they're great for my skin, and my skin really likes them. And I use a cleanse.
Mm.
It's like there's so much out there, but same with you with hair. Like I've just pushed my hair appointment back 3 weeks. 'Cause I'm like, nah, I can't bother yet. I just want to get my hair done in 3 weeks. Like it used to be
Mm.
because I wanted to look good. And you see me every week. I hardly wear makeup. I think I've got great skin. It's glowing at the moment because of my pregnancy, but I'll wear
Congrats on the
makeup if I go
baby.
for date night with Chris and stuff, like, because
Mm.
I like dressing up and I like, I like just sometimes, but it's because I choose to. Like, I don't
Mm.
wear makeup every single day because I'm like, one, I just could not be asked putting it on and taking it off at night. And two, it
Mm.
costs friggin' money to go and buy makeup 24/7, like when you're using it. I use it on special occasions where like,
Mm.
and that's what I love about New Zealand. When I got to New Zealand, I stopped giving a shit even more about what it looked like. I could literally go to the supermarket in my pajamas and people wouldn't give a shit. That's why I love New Zealand. There's just definitely less judgmental country for me, like
Mm.
coming in as a
Mm.
foreigner. But
Mm.
growing up in the UK is different, a lot
Mm.
different there as well.
I'm gonna do a shout out. You just inspired it to a beautiful new friend of mine, Michelle, who, if you are in the Bay of Plenty, she is amazing. She's just started doing these skin rejuvenation treatments with me, which are essentially IPL, and it's really, really great for your skin. And I've been using her skin oils, which are amazing. They're all natural, and I only use that now. And she's just about to launch a new range, which is yoni juice, and
Oh,
is the most beautiful product. And it's all natural stuff. So you can actually use it like it's so pure you could eat
mm.
it. But
Oh
it's
yeah,
it's a beautiful replacement to like lube.
yeah.
You can use it for massage and stuff as
Oh,
well. But like finding people like that are passionate
yeah.
about health but also about looking after yourself. So yeah, I'll put her information out on our
Thank you.
social media and stuff because Found Skin NZ, you can order her stuff as well. But yeah, like it's stuff like that. It can be so overwhelming. I'm
Yeah,
really big on getting to people the companies that are just phenomenal and are doing things. She's amazing.
yeah.
And if you're after a health supplement, I can 100% recommend. There is a giveaway that is happening right now
Can't wait.
on my Instagram and Mary's Instagram and with the Sauna Project, Papamoa and Beta Brand. So Beta Brand is an amazing company that have health supplement products that are, again, herbal, like incredible products. One is for sleep, one is for energy. But it's things like that fuck have made a massive difference in my life. And when it's natural stuff and you can trust it and
Oh
rely on
yeah,
it, I'm like,
definitely.
why the fuck wouldn't you? No negative side effects, but actually getting the things in your body that your body needs and that take care of it. So, and they do mushroom elixirs now as well.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah, just
yeah.
great.
And if you get amongst our giveaway, then you get all these delicious
That's what
things.
it is. It's about supporting local, isn't it? Like Chris and I will always choose
Totally.
local. Like supporting local is
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's been a great topic. Maybe we should
Beautiful.
do a part. We'll get to do a part two, or we'll get an interview on to do with this topic. But we've got
Yeah.
an awesome interview coming next week. We're not going to give much away, but it's going to be our first interview, and we can't wait to have her on.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for being in this conversation, loves. It's pretty heavy, but also is really important conversation for us to have. And thank you for receiving us and just opening up to some more layers of our stories and our journeys as to ever evolving women in this world and in this life. We really love you so much. And yeah, if this has triggered you in every way, as always, just make sure you do reach out if you need to.
Yeah, thank you for listening to me and allowing me to
Mm.
be vulnerable. And I just, yeah, deeper layers every week. Just great topics. And we can't wait for another episode next week with our first interviewee. But love you
Mhm.
lots. Thank you for listening.
Love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Mwah.